Good evening YouTube, Warples on a lot here with what by now has to qualify as a malt liquor video. So how you going, Earl, Bike Messenger 7? See this? This is Cooper's stubby number 4, so yeah, there you go. Last time you left a comment on one of my vids, Earl. You said my next malt liquor video should be joyous. Well, yahoo yippee mate, we do in fact have reason to celebrate. In that, let me show you something. As you know, I get a very limited picture of YouTube on the mobile phone, so every morning I have to sit there with a calculator and add up my total movie views. And this morning, on my channel there were 48,722 movie views, and on my daughter's channel there were 1,360 movie views. So between my movie on her channel and all of my movies on my channel, I got 50,082 total movie views since February 2011, and 438 movies I think it is. So it's a very small and obscure little corner of YouTube, but I think it's going well from my point of view. Probably 5,000 of those movie views are of SunFoil videos, and you know, as long as I can hold the SunFoils to around about the 10% of my channel, I'm feeling pretty happy. And they're going to feature a little bit in this clip, but I'd really like to talk about relativity in terms of paying attention to your own microclimate and your own comfort, and how small differences can have fairly marked effects. Okay? Now here I sit in the hut, and it's a 10 by 12 foot lawn locker. It's made out of about twice beer can thickness steel. It's got an inch or 25 millimeters of foam styrene insulating it, and it's got a little pot belly. And the pot belly at the moment, its output varies between probably 1 horsepower of heat and 15 horsepower with the firewood I'm feeding it at the moment. That's what the crackling noises are that you've been hearing on the soundtrack as I've been speaking. Right? It's going pretty well at the moment. Right? Once you get the thing running, it wants a minimal air inlet, because too much cold air actually cools it down. Now, 50% of the radiant heat coming out of that thing horizontally goes into the heat exchanger, which runs as a thermosiphon, and this little window here at the moment is not particularly hot, so I'd say the temperature of the air in the core is about 50 degrees. Last time I tried to shoot this movie, the temperature of the air in the core was about 100, about 3 seconds without it getting uncomfortable. To figure out the temperature here in the hut, we've got to go to a really old style thermometer. This is a thing called a Galileo thermometer, and what you've got is a vacuum in a glass tube full of clear hydrocarbon, and these little floats with their weights are very precisely calibrated. And as the air changes temperature, the hydrocarbon changes temperature, and as it changes temperature, it changes density, and as it changes density, the floats sink or they rise. And at the moment, the 24 degree float is halfway, right? So that indicates that the temperature at the moment is about 24.5 degrees. Right? in the hut. Whereas 10 metres deeper inside the forest, we have a maximum minimum thermometer, and it is reading 7 degrees Celsius, right? Let's go and have a look and see what it is in the middle of the clearing. And bear in mind there's about a 1 mile an hour wind from the west. So, over here, 0 degrees. Last time I shot this movie it was 1 degree and it was still air. And there was enough hot air coming off this swimming pool, which you can't actually see. There you go, you can just see the edge of the swimming pool. 5,500 litres, or 5 tonnes of water, alright? And water has 10 times the thermal mass of steel, right? So there's an awful lot of heat in the swimming pool, just like there's an awful lot of heat in the trees. It takes an enormous amount of cold air to cool down a tree. And that's one of the reasons why I have my hut built on the tree line. Okay, so now I'm in the bunk room, turning on the kids' high efficiency light, a bit of backup from the neck torch, and we come over here and we see, yep, the bird shit is still there, and the SunFoil Mark V fairing still needs to be repainted again tomorrow, which is why I went to town and bought more shiny blue can of paint. Meantime, let's see how we're going temperature wise. Back that off, get me a view of it. 11.6 degrees here in the bunk room, and I'm just wearing a shirt that's pretty comfortable to me. The important thing is it's over 10 degrees Celsius, and therefore the paint is continuing to cure. And it's an insulated bunk room. And if I sit in there and I keep feeding stringy bark and yellow box to the pot belly, then the heat exchanger and the thermosiphon are going to keep pumping hot air in here, and this place will warm up, and who knows, maybe it'll still be between 5 and 10 degrees tomorrow morning, when it's probably -1 or -2 in the centre of the clearing, and I would say at least 5 degrees under the trees. Point is, the paint will still dry, because of paying attention to small differences. You can reap large rewards. Last time I had a go at shooting this movie, and of course I'm reshooting because of a blooper, it was 11.8 degrees in the bunk room, and it was 1 degree in the centre of the clearing, and it was still 7 degrees under the trees. So as the air temperature in the clearing is dropping, the temperature in the bunk room is staying stable at a sort of 1 degree versus 1/5 of a degree ratio. Okay, I'm back in the hut. The neck torch has been hung up. The Galileo thermometer says the 24 degree bauble is still floating halfway. And at this stage of the movie, I'd like to raise a drink to a fella called Dave's Act, who lives in Canberra, and I know he doesn't drink, and it's a malt liquor video, but that's cool, you know, like you can toast me in lemonade, ginger beer, Pepsi Cola, cup of tea, cup of coffee, rosehip juice if you want to, I don't mind, mate. To the rest of my subscribers, Dave's Act has sort of fairly recently jumped on the SunFoil angle of the program, and he's impressed enough with what I've been doing that he's got a blog. He lives in Canberra. He has more followers than I do, and he's got 11 pages that he features on his blog, and I'm one of the pages he's put up there. He's gone and dug out the URL addresses of 41 of me SunFoil movies, And it's nice to know that the SunFoils are approximately 10% of my channel's total scroll. And 40 of Dave's blog watchers have read the page he's got regarding mad scientist SunFoils trying to connect to YouTube via a mobile phone because he's scared of computers, which is my story. And look, there's a point. Let's explain this. To all of my subscribers and those who are interested, this is why I don't have a computer, alright? In 1977, I was taken on a mathematics excursion to Lucas Heights, the research nuclear reactor in Australia, the only one we had at the time, and where they're building the only one we're going to have. They took us inside the containment dome, right? And when we got in there, written on the crane, which they used to pull the fuel rods in and out of the reactor, and put experimental specimens in there so they can be made dangerous for 10,000 years as well. Written on the crane was my family name, Wharton, W-H-A-R-T-O-N. Right, it said Wharton Engineering, England. And I looked at it and I thought about how my father was an engine reconditioner, and his father was a blacksmith and a coach builder and a wheelwright. And I thought, shit, the branch of the family that stayed in England, they got into engineering too. Jesus, it's a bit of a bloody omen, isn't it? You know, you walk into a nuclear reactor and your name's in graffiti, you know, like a foot high, written on the crane. So I paid particular attention to what I saw. And what I saw was all these really smart people in white lab coats carrying cardboard boxes full of punch cards and a mainframe computer with a warehouse full of floor-to-ceiling tape drives with like 18-inch diameter tapes. It was really impressive. And these buggers had spent weeks thinking up the questions to turn into punch cards to feed to the mainframe, and the mainframe would blip its lights and churn out new punch cards, and they'd piss off for weeks and weeks to think about what it all meant. And then they took us outside, and what they had outside was a parking lot. And along the parking lot there were manholes, and under each manhole there was a fuel rod. And the fuel rod was hanging in a trench. And it was like a square-sided, rectangular fashion zigzag trench. And the trench was slightly deeper than the fuel rods were long. And the fuel rods had to be a special distance from each other, or they'd get too cranky with each other and get hot and melt, and it'd all go wrong. And the trench was full of water from the Georges River, and it was being pumped by an electric motor fed by current from a power station at Newcastle, where they had a bloke sitting on a bulldozer feeding coal to the furnace to boil the water to blow steam on the windmill to spin a wheel covered with magnets to create the juice, right? To run the pump, to cool the fuel rods. And I looked at this system in 1977 at the age of 16 and I said, they're a bunch of fucking idiots. Why don't they have a cold water manifold at the bottom of the trench and a pipe with about an inch clearance around your fuel rod and a hot water collector at the top, and that way each fuel rod will suck as much cold water as it takes to stop it from boiling the water, and it'll thermosiphon itself to stability, and then unless seaweed or something blocks the inlet or the level of Georges River changes, it'll pump its own cooling fluid for the next 10,000 years or until it stops being dangerous. 1977, I was 16. Last year, fuck you, shimmer, die, itchy. What happened to Japan's bloody nuclear power plant? Loss of electricity. Loss of pumping, loss of coolant, meltdown. Fuck up, bang! Right? This is why I have no computer, because I figured in 1977 that computers might send me stupid, just like they do to a lot of other clever people. Thus and because I've never personally owned a PC or a laptop, I have no computer skills. That's why I run my mobile phone as a YouTube channel, because I haven't got any computer skills because I'm frightened of them. It doesn't mean I'm stupid, it just means I'm a bit of an oddball, not a fuckwit. And there it is, the 24-degree bauble is down. I pay attention to stuff that other people don't worry about. They call that neurosis. Or they call it obsessive compulsive disorder, or they call it science. Ciao.